grind, to the hustle, the pursuit of wealth. Every story, every journey, every climb from the shelf. Here's to the drive, to the fight, to pursuit of wealth.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit of Wealth podcast. Today, we've got our co-host, Mr. Jace Wright, and we've got another guest, Mr. Kyle Fogg. He's the man, the myth, the legend behind the camera, and we decided we want to bring him on today's episode to get a take from a younger generation.
That's so weird to say. That makes me feel so old.
How old are you, Kyle?
Turned 25 in 2 weeks.
25.
Good grief.
How old are you, Jace?
31.
31. Holy, you're freaking old, dude.
I know.
You're actually
gray hairs are coming in. Yeah,
you're the oldest man in this room.
It's wild. Definitely not the wisest, but we're the oldest.
But we wanted to do this because I think there's been a lot of content about the younger generation and the differences that maybe your generation is facing that our generation didn't face. And there's not, we're talking about a 6-year gap here. And there's things that like even our generation complains about that our parents didn't have to deal with. You know, they had it easier. It was easier to buy a house, all this stuff. So we want to talk a little bit about it and get your true perspective. So tell us, you're 25 years old, newly married.
Yep. Just over a year.
Okay. You guys are expecting your first baby any day now.
Any day.
Literally any day.
Yeah.
Could happen during this podcast and you'll have to leave.
Yep.
Imagine he said, guys, I got to go.
But walk us through, like, right now for you, what does a typical month look like financially for you guys right now?
Like,
you guys both
how
working?
much we bring in, or
if you want to share that, or if you just wanted, like, are you guys both working? How does it look like right now?
Yeah. So, I work full time. Obviously, you do a lot of my stuff for you. And then I do some weddings as well on the side. And then, my wife works as well. And she just does the property management stuff with one of the guys that I guess runs it.
Yeah. Cool. So you guys are dual household income. Do you guys rent right now? Do you have a home? What does that look like?
Yeah, we just rent a townhome here in town. So
okay,
looking to hopefully buy sometime in the near future.
That's what we'll discuss that as well. What do you guys right now? Do you guys track your finances? Do you know how much you spend on a monthly basis?
Yeah, I would say I've gotten a lot better at it. It's hard, and I feel like it's scary sometimes, actually, like looking at everything and adding it up. I know how much we have to pay off, on the credit card bill every month. Yeah. It's not debt or anything. We just, you just paid off.
So you use it at the start of the month, pay it off by the end of the month. Is what you're saying. Got it.
And then, I don't know. I have a spreadsheet of all of our expenses and stuff kind of broken down, but I don't update it as much as I should.
Okay.
But I know we definitely spend a lot more than we should.
Okay.
So does everybody.
Yeah.
Does saving money right now at your age, does it feel important?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I feel like I'm way behind, and it might be because I'm around you guys and around people where I'm like, I know that I could be doing so much more, when I feel like a lot of people my age don't really care as much. And so where I'm like, I think I could do so much better. I think that's already good enough compared to what other people are doing. All my friends and stuff, they a lot of them are in debt, quite a bit, and they don't really think it's a big deal. And I think just being around you guys, I'm very I think about the future a lot, and all these things that are happening with the world and inflation and stuff. I'm like, I've got to be putting away money into this, doing this. I think I kind of stressed myself out too much because I didn't really know a lot growing up. So I feel like I'm just kind of playing catch up.
Yeah. I think that's something probably for our generation, but I think the younger generation specifically too, younger males, they just feel like they're behind. And
a lot of that has to do probably with social media, because it's all the people that you follow. It's all the people, like you say, that you might even surround yourself with. with the early 20s, you're more than likely introduced to a lot of salespeople that do door to door, and it's about the cars, it's about the big houses, it's about the 20 doors, lots of things that we see a lot too. And so it has to probably do a lot with that, to where you see the highlights on Instagram and you feel behind because you're not there yet.
Yeah. I want to preface, like, when I mean, in my early 20s too, dude, I didn't know any of this stuff either. And so I don't feel like, I don't know, this might be a bad thing to say. I don't know if saving money and investing money I think you should have a strategy and be setting aside some money every single month, even at a young age, because the compounding effect that you're going to get over the next 30 years is significant. I don't think that stressing yourself out to save every dollar makes that big of a difference when you're young, because it's like, spend, whether you save $100 more that month or not, I don't think in the grand scheme of things is really going to affect too much. But I do think it's important to have some money aside each month, even if it is only $100 a month when you're that young, because of the compounding effect that you're going to see. So I'm torn, because it's like, as you get older, I would say, and you're investing into yourself and skills, you're going to get into a higher income bracket anyway, and then you're going to be able to save a larger percentage of that. But I feel like stressing yourself out in your 20s and feeling like you're behind isn't a healthy thing.
I feel like being a part of this and like hearing Jace's side of things has helped me a lot, because I went from like, yeah, I still, stress about it, think about it, but I'm also like, okay, where am I at compared to everyone else around me? Mm-hmm. I'm in a way better position. We, make decent money. We live in a good place. We don't have all this debt or like student loans or anything like that. And so I'm like, right now I feel like we can go grocery shopping. We can do like everything we need and not have to stress about, can we even get that? Mm-hmm. Like, sure, we don't have kids yet, and that's going to change. But like, I don't have a lot of those kinds of stresses that my friends do. When a car breaks down, they're like Rick, yeah, what do I do? Yeah. And so like that side of me is like, okay, like I got to be proud and content with where I am and just kind of enjoy life while like I'm in an okay position, but just trying to learn how to basically be a grown up. Like they don't teach you how to save money, how to do anything like that. At least where I went to high school, like they didn't teach us any of that. No. And my parents didn't really teach me anything about anything. Yeah. And so just trying to figure out, all your bills that you have to pay and just money in general, like it was a lot, especially when we got married. There's a lot more things that came on. 100%. And so I think because of all of that, I found myself just being in this puddle of stressing all the time about it, when I'm like, I got to kind of look at it in like how you look at things, kind of the center line. And it's, I don't know, still learning it all, right. But like that definitely has taken a huge load off of like my shoulders. And it's like, okay, like just be more present with where you're at. 'Cause like your life isn't over. It's not that deep,
100%. When there's two things I want to hit on there. I think the biggest way to relieve stress is just have a plan. It's like, you don't have to be saving a crazy amount of money, but if you have a plan that you just know your monthly expenses, and that's why I'd encourage you to like spend some time and just figure out what your monthly expenses is. You don't have to be ashamed about it, but just knowing, similar like to like if you're going to get, if you're going to start a weight loss journey, you need to know where you're at weight wise to know if you're going to make any progress. So just knowing where you're at and then having a game plan of, hey, here's where we are. If we're comfortable here, awesome. Let's try to keep it here. If not, could we reduce it a little bit, and where would we want to reduce it? And then like, how much are we bringing in? Is there a gap, and are we good with that gap? And then just having that idea and knowledge gives you a little bit of freedom and like relief. And then having a little, I think for Jace, the big changer for you was just having a game plan of like, here's how we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to set this up, and this is just going to like auto go here. And it just relieves a lot of stress, because then you don't have to think about it. Half of the battle is just thinking about your money and where it's going, and then stressing about, well, I don't actually know where it went. So if like you just have a plan for it, it relieves a lot of that unknown.
When I saw this video the other day, and this is obviously a lot easier said than done, but I was really fascinated by this quote. It was, if you tell your brain what you want, you will eventually get it. Like that's just how our brains operate. And so when you focus on a plan, like you said, or if you have, you know, priorities, you're telling your brain what you want, and you're naturally going to like adjust to get that. Versus like, you know, Kyle mentioned that it's a little nerve-wracking to look at expenses. And that's when I was in the debt that I just never looked at it because I wasn't telling my brain at that point that that's what I really wanted. Subconsciously, I was like, yeah, I'd love to be out of debt, but I didn't make the conscious decision like I'm going to be out of debt and then here's how we're going to do it. And so I'm fascinated by that concept of like, you just got to tell your brain what you want and you'll eventually figure it out. One thing I was going to ask you though, that I'm fascinated with this too, just because this is a different dynamic. We talked about how, you know, it was different from our parents to us, and then from us even to the lower generation. And I think it's becoming a lot more common and almost necessary to have dual income households to survive. And so with you and your situation, I mean, you're jumping into it quick. You got married, you're having a kid right away, you know, starting a career. So what's that looked like for you, knowing, okay, planning for the future, having a baby, wanting to focus on finances, but like needing potentially a dual income household to provide and survive, I guess, in this world. What's that look like between you and your wife? Like how have those discussions been?
I feel like ever since we got married, like, I mean, ever since we started dating, communication's been a big thing for us. And I feel like that's something we've just really grown in that. And so like we talk about everything like all the time, like on a day-to-day basis. It's not like, you know, we're never scared to talk about anything, but that's always been something that I've let her know. Like, I don't want you to feel like you ever have to work. If you want to, great. Cause I know some people, they want that. She really wants to be a mom. She looks at that as more of her career, like, which is totally fine. Like that's awesome. And so I'm like, I feel guilty if I would ever have to put her in a position where she's going to have to work. And I feel like, at least me alone, I bring in enough to where if we can be smart, she doesn't have to work. And I think that's like the key that I've learned is like, you can do it off of whatever income. You just have to be smart with where you put your money. And so right now she's working and she's planning on coming back. Like it's a more chill job. It's not like she's having to put in, 40, 50 hours a week.
Sure.
And I've told her, I'm like, even if you do come back and you don't want to keep working, like that's totally fine. And so that's kind of up in the air. But the reality of that is I've told her, I'm like, well, if we want to get into a house, not putting pressure on you at all, but if we want, a certain kind of house, as of right now, it's going to have to be a dual income. Like we are probably going to need your income to be able to keep paying for it. And I don't want to put myself in a position where we have that and then she quits her job. It's like, okay, well, you can't just get out of a lease. Like you have a mortgage. It's a lot more complicated. And so just conversations like that, I feel like even that alone is way further than my friends. Like they don't have those kinds of conversations. And it's like, oh, I just want to please them and just do whatever they want. And if we have to go into debt, whatever. Like, no, like I don't want to screw myself over. And so if we need to get into a smaller house that I can, pay for myself or whatever. And so like when I've been talking to lenders, it's just been off of my income to see what I can qualify for, what we can actually afford and stuff like that. Just because I don't want her to ever feel like there's that pressure. And so that's kind of where we're at.
That's a very mature answer.
Yeah, I liked it.
Because I think you're right. A lot of people your age, I mean, I was probably like this early on too in our marriage. Like it wasn't that conversation. It was just like, I'm going to go out and work and grind and I'll pay for things. And, like now looking at where we're at in life and we have 3 kids, we do have those conversations where, hey, I could stay home more or we could work less or you could stay home more. But if we do, we probably need to fix how much money's going out every single month. Like we're not just going to pick up and go to Boston and go to World Cup games, unless we're both working, or we're not just going to go book an Airbnb in St. George for a week. Like we can still live an awesome life, but those are the things that would have to come out. And if you're okay with that, then that's a trade-off that we're willing to make. Right. And I think just like you said, it's like, it's a trade-off regardless. So being able to understand that, hey, we could be a dual household income if you want to, and that's going to get us X, Y, and Z. And if you don't really care about X, Y, and Z, then you can stay home and we'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
But we can't have both. Like there is a trade-off that has to occur. And for you to understand that and be willing to have that conversation early on like this is awesome. Like I wish and hope more people that your age can do that, because I think that's going to help your relationship long-term more than you even realize right now.
Like I could throw myself in that position and be like, I just have to go out and make more money. And, then my back's against the wall. But where we're going to be having a kid, I'm like, do I want to have my back against the wall? I know that's going to add more stress. I'm going to have to go either find ways to make more money here or do a couple more weddings or whatever it is on the weekends, or figure something else out. But I'm like, we don't have to be in that position where I have to go make more income because we need it. I mean,
I think that is a lot of people's justification of, I'm the man, I'm just going to go out and work harder to make all this happen.
Especially in your 20s.
Especially in your 20s.
All the time. You're
even
just
in your
thinking that.
even in your 30s. Like, I think it's actually really hard for a man to not feel that way. But the biggest problem with that is if you go and do that, you don't let's say you don't want to have the conversation with your spouse because you're scared about that, and affects your manhood if you have to tell them that they have to work, or if not, then there's going to be trade-offs. And so you just decide, I'm going to go work more. But you've never had that conversation about why. Then there becomes, your spouse is like, well, why are you working so hard? And then you have resentment for them asking why you're working so hard. Be like, because I have to pay for all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, this all could have been avoided if you just had that conversation early on and you guys decided together on what was important and what trade-offs you're willing to make. Because it is like that. If she could say, you could be like, I'll just go work hard and do this. And she's like, well, actually, I don't want you to be gone that often. Okay. Well, if you don't want that, then I could do this, but here's a life that we're going to live based on this income. Are you okay with that? I think understanding that this is why it's so important to have your finances, or an understanding of your finances, because then you can make these decisions. Like, hey, here is how much we spend each month. Here's how much we bring in on my income. Here's our gap. So here's what we can afford. We can continue this lifestyle, but if we want to up our lifestyle, I'm going to either have to work more or go find another job or create some more revenue. And whenever that time occurs, you just got to be okay with me going to do those things. But it's all about the communication and the understanding from both parties. And I think that's where a lot of people mess up. I mean, the number one reason for divorce is usually financial. And it's because we don't have these conversations. So for you to be doing this at 25, like a year into your marriage, awesome. I am jacked that's what you guys are doing. I have a question for you too. What did you think adult life was going to cost versus what it actually costs? Is there some any kind of kickers that you're like, man, I just didn't realize X, Y, Z, or did you kind of figure this is kind of what life was going to cost?
I mean, I never really did the math in my head. And I think part of it was just, I'll figure it out when I get there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, it's hitting everyone. Like, I'm sure you guys feel it too, but like groceries.
Yeah.
Like that one for us is a big one. If we choose to get groceries and eat out, like just the price of all that gets up. And before, it was just kind of like I did whatever I wanted, and I wasn't having to always pay for two people.
Yeah.
And I never really did buy groceries before.
Yeah.
So like that honestly was a big one for me.
Mm-hmm. You don't realize how expensive fruit is.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't need fruit.
Charles brought home some cherries the other day.
Oh,
a little $20 box of cherries.
It's wild.
I'm like, what the?
Half our grocery bill is fruit every week. Like raspberries, blueberry. That's all the kids want. And our nanny, that's all she eats too, is fruit.
When it adds up.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Huge
just
expense.
little things that I think I've noticed because I look at how much everything costs.
Yeah.
And I see how much goes out at the end of the month. I'm like, dang, all the little stuff actually adds up.
100%.
A lot. You're eating out, your pick-me-ups, swigs, whatever. Like, oh my gosh. I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
For
just
me.
little stuff.
Like nothing big, but just seeing how everything like
kind of adds up over each
Yeah.
month. What, when you guys, if this was a discussion, when you guys decided to have start a family, have a kid, was finances a part of that discussion at all?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My thought has changed a lot since like that whole decision. And I mean, just to put out there, we got pregnant so fast. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
but like I've always wanted a kid, and I've wanted kids, wanted a family. Like that's just what I've always wanted. And she's wanted that. The big thing for me that I kind of dealt with was she kind of looked at this as like her career, you know, like this is her dream, is
Being
to be
a mom. Yeah.
And she was having such a hard time with wherever she was working because she wanted to be a mom. And I was, you know, trying to figure out work and growing my career in that sense. And I kind of found it, and it hit me where I was like, who am I to take away her dream, in a sense where like I tried to look at it like that. Like, why am I taking that away from her when I'm like I'm kind of holding her back? Like we were fine. Like we were in a position where like we could have a baby and we'd be fine. Like it's not like we don't make anything. We don't like live in a dump. Like we live in a pretty much brand new townhome, and we have nice cars, like whatever. So I'm like, there's no reason why we couldn't. And like our relationship was super strong, and so that was a big thing. But
was it finances that was holding you back?
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Is I kept saying to her, no, like we need to have this amount in our bank as a savings. I need to be making this amount, like whatever it is, before we can even kind of come back to this. And it just kind of got harder and harder on her, and I could see it. Like we'd even talked about this before we got married too. And I don't know, it was just one day that I kind of talked to myself about it. I'm like, what am I even doing? Like, we're fine. Like, and plus I was like, you never know if it's going to take a long time to have kids, if you can have kids, if you like, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Didn't take him very long.
nope.
No, that's fascinating too. Cause like, I feel like us as men, like we want to protect ourselves by saying stuff like, yeah, we got to have savings. We got to have this, but like the real burden that we carry as husbands and as fathers is there is a level of, you just got to figure it out. Like that's the burden you bear as a provider, is like you have two choices. You either say no because of the circumstances, and you either try to figure it out to make it a yes, or you say yes and figure it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What was your experience when you guys had kids?
It didn't even cross our minds. I was more of the like, oh yeah, like you want kids, you tell me when and I'll figure it out. I kind of always operated that way, which was a pro and a con. Like that's honestly one of my worst habits and that's why spending was such a big deal for me, is because I would spend and say, oh, I'll figure it out. Like, you know, that's just how my brain operates. I want this now and I'll figure out how to get it, or, you know, pay it off later, which has been what we've been fighting when we were in debt. But, like I've always said too, like if let's say my girls want to go into some professional dance or whatever in the future, like I will more than likely say yes, and I will figure it out. Or if it is a no, it's a no temporarily, and I have a discussion with Chelsea on how can we make this a yes. Here's what would need to happen. Here's how we are responsible in that sense, versus just no.
I love that. And I'm kind of more on the same. I definitely thought about finances before we had started having kids, and even before we even got married. Like I didn't propose to Bree for 5 years. A large chunk of that was financial. I wanted to be in a spot where I could actually provide, and I wasn't. I mean, we were in college, and you know, I just didn't have steady income. So it wasn't till we were in a somewhat stable financial spot that I felt comfortable to then propose. And then it took us, you know, another few years where we were just married, and we didn't have kids until I had a few good years of real estate under my belt, and we had some savings, and we bought a house, and I felt good. I'm like, all right, I think we're ready. Not that that's what you need to do, but I think it is interesting to see everybody's perspective of like, how do they handle this situation? I think our generation, or this next generation, actually does think a lot about finances prior to having kids.
I think they have to.
You have to, because I think, cost of living has just gone up so much. And it used to be buy a house and then have kids, but now buying a house can be so far out there that, when, is that the right order? Now is it, should you just have kids and you're going to buy a house down the road? I want to hear your perspective on some of this stuff, but that's the stuff that really interests me because we're having less kids. The average home buyer is now, I think, 40 something years old. First time home buyer. The average person's buying their first home when they're like 40. So that's increased significantly. Are we just thinking about things differently, or is it truly, has stuff truly changed financially, or is it more of like a social media pressure thing?
I was going to say one thing though, that changed for me and our conversations did so we were dating, and pretty early on is when I like made a career change.
Yeah.
And at that point, starting out, I was only making $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
And we even had conversations back then about, no way we can ever have kids
Yeah.
making this amount. And
That's diapers.
Yeah. That's gonzo. Rent and diapers, gone.
But like our conversations changed as I made more money. And I know there's people out there that make $2,500 a month and they're having these conversations, or maybe they're not because they're like, I'm too scared to even talk to my wife about it because I know we don't make enough. And I feel like those conversations are way harder to have, but you still have to have them, especially 100%. When you're not making enough.
I'd argue those are the most important times to have.
But
Yeah.
When the money is tight, that's where you need the most communication, or else that's when stress really hits in.
yeah,
It's like you can kind of get away with those, not having those conversations when you're on the upper levels, because it's like, you've got money coming in. You don't have the financial pressure that's going to hurt the relationship. When you have that financial pressure, you need to be in front of those conversations and game planning. You have to strategize your life, because like ultimately you only have so many resources. And so you're like, hey, where are we going to deploy our limited amount of resources? We've got to make sure that, what's most important to us, where are we going to allocate these funds? Because we don't have unlimited funds. And obviously, as you get higher and higher brackets of income and wealth, you have a lot more resources, so you can be a little bit more flexible and carefree or careless with where your allocations are. But I'm like, dude, at the beginning, your communication has to be, and I don't think I communicated that. Bree was always like, just thinking I'm just dragging my feet on proposing, because I didn't really, I had in my head that I wanted to wait till we got to like some stability and stuff, but I never really communicated that. And so
She's like, does he even love me?
yeah, she's over like, geez, what's taking so long?
well, I'm curious in your guys' head, like about things looking perfect in your head. Do you feel like that's changed now versus like things need to look this way versus like, I don't know, like, have you learned stuff like that, or is that still kind of the same thing? Like you won't do things until it's almost perfect in your eyes?
I'd say for me, it's a balance. Like there's certain aspects where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do this until X is achieved. But then I also, on the flip side, understand that life isn't going to be perfect and the situations aren't going to be perfect. And you got to go for it, as long as it's a responsible choice, right? Like I'm not just going to go buy a $55,000 car just because I want to, right? Like it depends on the situation, I guess, is how I would answer that. Planning is important, and being frugal is important. Frugal, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Just having a safety net is important, but I've said it a billion times on this podcast. You just can't ever guarantee tomorrow. And so today might like never be perfect. So if you can make it happen, go make it happen.
The way I look at it now is it's all just like managing risk. And I look at risk and reward. And for me, I just never want to have I never want my back at a corner. So if it's something that's going to jeopardize my ability to make decisions, or it's going to force me to make decisions that I don't want to make, it's going to put my back in a corner, I'm not going to do it. So like, could we go buy a bigger house? Yes. But I might feel like I have less options and my back's going to be more in a corner. And I don't like that. So I'm not going to do it. Same thing with like buying a cabin or stuff like that we've looked at that I'm like, I want to do that and we could do it. but I'm also analyzing the risk and reward. I'm like, is a reward good enough for the risk that I'm going to put? And then tying up the resources and having that financial pressure that's going to force me to be back where I don't want to be, maybe. And so for me, it's just that. I think as I've gotten like more mature, it's just realizing, hey, risk and reward. If I buy a new car, is a reward worth the money that I'm expending on that might force me to go work X amount longer? I don't really care about the new truck. So I think it changes, but I still plan, like I am still on most decisions I make, I am looking at the financials. Like, is it a smart decision? But I think I am more lenient now that we've gotten to a certain point that like, hey, I'm more lenient on if it's going to be a memory or something for the family. A lot more lenient on, let's go do it. Like, let's live today.
I'll give you a good example of that. Yeah. Like that's been recent for me. And I've been meaning to share my net worth because we need to update that. But like a good example for me is like when I chose to do my yard, there's 2 routes we could have taken with that. Number one was do step by step, maybe do a little bit here, wait a couple months or even a year to do the next part, and then do the next part, then do the next part, do some of it myself, whatever the case may be. That decision became very quick for me with regards to where we were at financially, knowing the net worth tracker, to just be like, you know what, might get a little tight, but we're still just going to do it. Like, and here's why. It was all about like the memories for the kids, being able to call a place at home and not have to worry about like just the things that made us comfortable. Like we were okay sacrificing comfortability for a couple months to get this now and still not go into debt. That was the key. If we would have gone into debt, that's an automatic no, which is kind of the floor that we set ourselves after we did this, is we will not go into debt to do this, but we are willing to be a little uncomfortable and put my back against the wall for a temporary little bit so that we can have this quicker, better, whatever that looks like. And man, it's been great. Kids freaking love it. We've loved it. So hopefully that gives you kind of an actual real life example of that decision process. Because I think I fall in the same line. It's like, you just don't want your back against the wall. And if it is, it has to be very temporary.
Yeah. Just think through those decisions.
Yeah.
A little bit more. All right, Kyle, question for you. Social media shows your generation, people your age making millions on YouTube and crypto and day trading. How does that affect how you and your friends think about a normal career path?
That's a good question.
It's a lot. It's hard. I feel like I've got different kinds of friends. I've got friends that do not care about anything out there. Then I have other friends. A lot of those came from like when I did sales and stuff like that, where they're very into all of that.
Yeah.
I feel like the people that are like really into this put a lot of their eggs in all of the baskets. Like they'll dip money into everything that they hear on social media if there's something trending or whatever, and they don't really know anything about it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them end up losing like a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I feel like my friends that don't really care about any of that stuff are better off, but also they're not better off. Like they don't bring in very much. Like I feel like, and that, maybe it's not true, but I feel like you got to have a little bit of both. You got to have some interest in at least like the investment world or things that are going on, because it's important to know what is going on with the world money wise. Can't just sit back and act like nothing's happening, like inflation's happening. You can't act like that. It's not happening.
Yeah,
you know,
it is occurring. Yes.
But like, I think you don't need, unless like your profession is day trading, like doing things like that, I don't think you need to necessarily be putting money into that kind of stuff, like into random cryptos. There's safer stocks that you guys have talked about that people can put their money into. But I think a lot of people my age want to just make a lot of money real quick. And they think because maybe they're in the sales world that they're kind of built for that life, when maybe they didn't make any money doing sales, but they claim that they're a sales bro. So everyone, like, they want to paint this perfect picture of themselves, but it's not like the reality,
Yeah.
you know?
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
That's what we call that. I like that. I think you're right. You need to have some interest, because this goes back to the people that kind of just use this as an excuse. Like, I don't care about that stuff. But then you look at them and their family's struggling and they're just okay making $2,500 a month and they're not trying to progress. And it's like, okay, well and just be like, well, I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm like, well, that's kind of an excuse. Like, you can say you don't care about that, but you're still a provider. You should go out and work and try to be bettering yourself so that your family's in a better situation.
Right.
And unless you've had that conversation with your wife and she's like, yeah, you should just be a bum, then like full send. Like,
That's another problem.
As long as you and your wife are on the same page and you guys agreed to live this life, go for it. But the likelihood is you probably haven't had that conversation with your wife, and your wife would probably like you to go out and make more money. So you should have an interest in some of this stuff. But do you feel a pressure at your age based on social media to be making more money or to be YouTube famous? Like, how do you perceive that? Do you feel that pressure, or are you kind of like, eh?
I guess, yeah. I think in my like industry that I'm in, there's a lot of people that do like content stuff, and they're kind of more well known in that area. And I think that could be something if I really wanted to, you know, kind of, what do you call it? Like be a content creator or whatever. I feel like there's so much content that I can get if I wanted that kind of life, whether it was, you know, in my daily life or work life.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people make good money doing that, but I also see the cons of it. And a lot of times people make it out to be way better than it actually is. And the hard part that I struggle with social media is a lot of it's fake.
Yeah.
And people only talk about the good times. They only show the, you know, all the happy moments and stuff. And I feel like, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't want to put stuff out there for someone that is going to look at my stuff, compare themselves to me. And, you know, maybe it was a happy moment that they saw, but maybe that was like such a bad day or whatever it was. But then now they're feeling guilty or, you know, putting themselves down based off of me.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. And so I feel like it did hit me at one point, but then I just started looking at all the cons and like what it's actually doing to people. And I don't know, I'm very much like that as a person. Like I look at the downside of things, I guess.
Yeah.
Like even people that were married, I look at the things that they would fight about and all of that. And I try to learn from that and learn from people's mistakes and take that into like whatever I learned. And so I don't know, sometimes I think it hurts me. I look a little too deep on things, and then like I hold like too high of a standard for certain things when it's like, okay, that's a little too much. But
kind of piggyback off that question, because obviously you mentioned it, all the good things about Instagram and everybody's lives that they portray on social media. With that said, do you feel like your generation has it easier, or is it more difficult for financial security to become millionaires, different things like that? Do you think it's easier for you guys or harder?
I think from what you see I think it comes off easier because you see people blow up and start making millions a month. And it's like, okay, like you probably could do that if you wanted to.
It's most people your age would be like, what I see in the comments of so many people that post content, you always see in the comments like, well, it's easier for you to say like, I can barely make it. And with today's day and age of like affordability and like, I'm never going to be able to buy a house, and your generation had it so much easier. So for you to actually think that like, hey, I think my generation actually has more opportunity is a good way to look at, like, it just shows that you don't have a victim mentality, and which is good, because a lot of people your age do have a victim mentality where it's like, well, it's just too hard. Like, what's the point of buying a house? Like, I'm never going to be able to afford it. I'm never going to be able to do this. And the government should just pay for all my stuff. Where you're like, I actually do think your generation, even my generation, has way more opportunity.
Oh yeah.
Than our previous generations. We have way more access to knowledge, way more. It used to be like you have to have 1 million followers to blow up. It's like, dude, if you post a good video, you can blow up. Like, your opportunity, the gatekeeping is down. Your opportunity is massive. Back to the content stuff though, of like, I'm glad you do look at the downside and you understand, because I think a lot of people are built. I mean, as humans, we're just built to be like optimistic, and see the good. And that's where a lot of people are like, oh, I should do this. And this guy's making $1 million, bucks a month doing this or whatever. But it's, it's not really true. And look at the downside. It's like, well, how does his home life look? How does his relationships look? What does his work-life balance look like? Is it actually what I want? Everything has struggles. There's shit with everything. Like any business you're in right now, you're like, you just know what's hard. But if you go into another business because you're like, oh, well, I should start an HVAC company because HVAC looks easy. I promise you there's shit in that one too. You just don't know it yet. And so for you to take the time to be like, well, let me look at the downside, that's actually, I think, going to help you get a lot further in life, because you're not just going to jump into things.
You'll know that you can handle the downside. Because everybody can handle the upside.
Correct.
Everybody can. Yeah. But if you notice the downside, you'll know that you can handle that, and that's what makes
before you make that decision.
Will help you be successful for sure.
I actually hate social media, and for the last 2 weeks I've thought about deleting it and just having Kyle post for me, because he posts for me anyway. So I'm like, well, do I really need this? I don't know. I might do a little social media cleanse.
It's not a bad idea,
because I think there's a lot of pressure on there, and it is like, I don't know. Maybe you guys don't, but like, I do feel like I spend a lot of time doing nothing on social media. Like, it's just such a bad habit to open the app, and then I'm like 20 minutes later, I'm like, dude, I just wasted 20 minutes. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And so for me too, I'm like, I think I'd be way more productive if I didn't have that. But it is so hard, because it's like, I think social media can provide so many opportunities, as we see. Yeah. But it's at what cost?
Yeah. There's trade-offs to
opportunities. 100%.
So
okay.
I got a question that we didn't necessarily have on here.
Yeah.
But,
go for it.
So Kyle has joined he's a part of the group.
Yeah.
The Pursuit of Wealth group that we've got. You can be honest and raw with us here. Like, we're putting us on the spot just as much as we were putting you on the spot. But being a part of that group, we've had a couple meetings already. You've obviously listened to the podcast because you have to. But has that been beneficial for you as you've prepped for life and started this journey of yours where, you've got a baby coming up, you're wanting to get a house, you're trying to get finances in order. What's it looked like from your eyes, seeing what we're trying to do here, and has that benefited you?
100%. Literally ever since our first meeting, I realized everyone is at different stages of life, but yet we're all struggling with basically the same stuff. And things that I thought, no one in here can relate because they're all further than me. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm the youngest in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was pretty hard for me. But then when we went around and like everyone shared, all these things, like, I was like, okay, actually, like, that made me feel a lot better. Made me feel like I wasn't actually behind. But then it helped me realize, okay, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I might be in their shoes dealing with the same thing again. So like trying to just learn, I guess, habits now. So when I do get, to their point of life with whatever it is, I've built these habits to where maybe it doesn't hit me as hard, but then there's always going to be different things that come up. Like, you're never going to have like a perfect life with no stress or like no problems. But I think being in a group of that where I can learn from them with those things, and maybe there's something that they can get from me as well. But like, there's so much that I can learn from everyone in there, finance wise, with like families, like just relationships, whatever it is. Like, it's already helped me.
One thing in there that's like, because we have guys from all different groups, in that first go around when we were explaining everybody's, introductions, everybody that had kids, it was like, no matter what, whether they were self-employed, W-2, high income, lower income, running $1 million a year company, they all kind of went back to like time with family.
Yeah.
And you had people that talked about like kids, how like their kids are like, Daddy, I wish you didn't have a phone, or this stuff.
Yep.
Hopefully that kind of was eye-opening for you too. What did you take away from that? Like, you got your first kid coming up.
That's always been something for me, is I want to be a present dad, and understanding like the actual meaning of what it means to be present, like just hit another level there, because that, like, I actually got sad hearing people say that, and you can hear like how sad they are. And I'm like, that's crazy that our phones like can literally rip apart families. And so it's like, it's a blessing and a curse in your own hand.
Yeah.
But I've taken that and I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to care about this. Like, yes, a lot of my job is on my phone. And I've told myself, like, at the end of the day, if that ends up being a problem, then I got to figure something else out, because family comes first. And like, I want my kids to make sure that they know, like, when dad's home, he's home. When he's playing with us, he's playing with us. He's not having to, scroll because he's bored or whatever, or just out of habit. A lot of those guys were like, I don't even know why I'm scrolling, but my kid's grabbing some toys, so I pull out my phone as a habit. It's like that. That's such a bad habit. Like, oh my gosh,
we can't, dude. And that's what's, I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately, is like, we can't be bored. Like we are broken. Like,
yeah.
If there is a spare second, we are watching TV, we are pulling out our phone to scroll. We're like, we can't just sit there in our thoughts anymore. And that's actually the most, like, being bored is where you actually get to think through a lot of like problems in life. When you're like, when you have nothing else to think about, then you start remembering like this, and then you can run through situations. Well, if I did that, then this. But it's like, if you don't ever give that time to yourself, and you just, every time you have a break, you're pulling your phone up and scrolling, you're never giving yourself time to process the biggest problems in life usually. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to see the effects of that over the next 5-10 years. I mean, I honestly think that's where like divorce rates are skyrocketed, is because like we're just so impatient, can't be bored. A lot of times, like, people don't even know what to talk to their spouse about. It's like they don't talk to their spouse. If there's a free time, they're just going to they both pull out their phones and are scrolling. Like,
I think that's an addiction in itself. Like, and it sounds bad, but I'd relate that all the way down to like addictions that other people struggle with, whether it's drinking or pornography or whatever it is. But you almost have this other life, mm-hmm. whether it's, whatever you're doing. But if you're always on your phone, like, you have no idea what's actually going on in your own life. It's like what you were saying, you actually have time to think about stuff. But it's like, if you look at it as living two different lives, because you're so glued to what's going on here that you're never really present. Like, I don't know. I'd say probably the last 2 years, I've worked really hard on not being on my phone. Mm-hmm. Like, so when I'm doing stuff, like I post for a few different companies and stuff, like I never really scroll unless it's grabbing an idea or so. But like, I feel like I've gotten pretty good at not really being on my phone, and I put my phone, like to charge or whatever right before we go to bed. Like, I never scroll while I'm in bed or anything. When I wake up, I don't look at my phone until after my run, things like that. So I feel like, because I've looked at how bad it's hurt people's lives, and I've seen marriages break up because of as simple as a phone. But I think you could, like, I look at it as it's a bad addiction, as bad as all these other ones. Because if you don't look at it like that, it's never going to get fixed. You look at it as, it's not that bad. Like, we just scroll on our phones, but it's like, no, it's a huge problem.
The average person, I saw that stat, the average person's they're going to spend 17 days of their summer scrolling.
That's crazy.
Holy crap.
It's insane.
What?
It's like, dude, the average person, just based on how much screen time the average person has, they're going to spend 17 days of their summer on their phone scrolling, which is absolutely insane. Okay, Kyle, with a baby coming, what financial fears keep you up at night, and what are you hopeful about?
Last night I had a nightmare.
Okay, let's hear this.
I'd say it was a nightmare for finances. And it could have been just because the night before we were at the hospital in the middle of the night. So like last night, I think I only got like 2.5 hours of sleep.
Oh man.
But in those 2.5 hours of sleep, just pure nightmare. And it was that I couldn't afford anything, and I couldn't pay for as little as diapers or whatever. And it went way more into that. But the thought that like kept hurting was like, I can't give my kid a good life. It's like, I was kind of a failure. Like, I couldn't even buy diapers. And sure, like you can go into debt, whatever, buy stuff like that if you really need to. But like in that dream, it was way worse than that. And I think I ended up like dying because I was like too stressed.
Really?
Because I couldn't like afford anything for him.
I think that answers the question.
Kind of
like
answers it, but
subconsciously, I think that you know the financial responsibility burden that you carry as a provider, right?
yeah.
And that's going to drive you, obviously, and you're already doing the right things. So I like it. That was good.
What kind of financial life do you want to build for your kid that maybe you didn't have?
I mean, one thing I want them to actually have something that they can get, whether it's like, I don't know. I actually talked to my brother about it like the other day, and we're like, it's going to be so hard for our kids to be able to buy a house. Like it's only getting harder. And I'm like, I'd love to be able to have investment properties to where like I can get a couple nice ones that can basically hand down to them, or they can buy from me at a certain price, but have those opportunities for them. And obviously they still work for it, but I'm like, I want to be able to give them those kind of opportunities. And so I got to put myself in position to be able to do something like that. And I want to be able to travel. Like we never really traveled growing up very much. If we did, it was like every like 7-8 years going to Chile, because that's where my mom's from.
Yeah.
But like that was such a big like financial kind of burden for our family. And so I want to spend a lot of time traveling the world and seeing all of that with like my kids and experience that. And so like I know with that, you got to be making, you know, more money, or at least just being smarter and saving money, putting money aside for stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Love it. Does retirement feel real to you, or does it just feel so far that it doesn't really register right now?
I think that's probably it. Doesn't really feel real.
Yeah.
I think where I'm kind of newer into like what I'm actually doing for what I feel like, you know, a really long time. Mm-hmm. I feel like retirement just kind of seems like a fake thing. I'm like, oh, you know, that's not until you're 65. That's kind of the way you look at it.
Yeah.
But the more I've surrounded myself with like a lot of you guys and people that, you know, are wanting to have a retired life at like 35, 40, maybe 45, whatever it is. It's like that life of retirement looks different for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think like I'm always going to want to work, but I think what you guys have talked about is just the fact that you don't have to work. Like, you know, whether it's you have all this passive income that's coming in to be able to support you forever, like, or not forever, but yeah, I guess.
At least on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like a sense of retirement. But it seems so far away at the same time. And I think that's like, at least right now where I'm at in this point of life, I'm trying not to stress too much about like putting money into retirement and stuff like that, because I'm like, that's just another thing added to my plate. And I know it's harder when you're self-employed because no one else is paying for any sort of retirement for you. Like you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But I also know that you can't just put it off forever. Like you need to be starting somewhere.
Yeah.
So I guess that could be a thing that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's like I just kind of put it off because I'm trying not to overstimulate my life right now.
Yeah.
What I really like from what I've heard so far, Kyle, is I think one thing that's going to set yourself up for a lot of success is who you're surrounding yourself with. You know, like I have a lot of respect for you for being a part of the group and applying yourself there. 'Cause you did mention it, like you're the youngest by probably a decent amount.
At least 6 years. You know,
Yeah.
'cause
I mean, yeah, at least 6 years compared to me, but, we have some older guys there and all that stuff. But like, I think you're doing all the right things to set yourself up for success, 'cause who you surround yourself by changes how you think. Like we hear that all the time. Like, and you mentioned it today, just there's some friends that you have that aren't in the same mindset. Like they're not thinking about this stuff. And if you surrounded yourself with only those type of people, I think you'd be very reactive in your choices. But I can tell just based on talking with you and stuff, you're very intentional with your choices and the decisions that you make. And I credit that to a lot of who you choose to hang around with. So kudos to you, man. That's freaking awesome.
Love
Appreciate it, dude.
What, as we kind of wrap up here, Kyle, if you could ask us anything about money, one question, what would it be?
That's a good question. Anything about money?
Could be money. It could be parent. It could be life.
I guess at what point do you feel like whether it's finances like you have in your account or whatever, at what point do you feel like you're in a position where you don't really have to like, yes, like you want to be saving money, but where you don't have to have dedicated income necessarily coming in just into your savings to build it up. Where like you have a good savings and like, I guess a good starting point where you don't have to worry about crap. Like we don't really have a savings. Like what's a good way that you guys look at it? Cause I was thinking, I'm like, I know you need, emergency money, like 3 to 6 months worth of like whatever you spend, like on top of that, like not just counting that, like what would you feel like a good kind of number would be?
Yeah, I think for me, and then I'll let the professional answer after me. So for me, I think the word savings can mean a multitude of different things. Like if you just say in general, like savings, then that number could be whatever. Cause I look at some of the money I've got in stocks as savings, right? Just cause it's there, it's sitting and it's growing. But actual money in an actual savings account, I would say is your 6-month emergency. That's what you keep in there. Outside of that, as long as that is maintained, especially when you're self-employed and stuff, anything outside of that 6 months is probably going to be invested, and you can consider some of that savings depending on how risky that investment is.
So outside of, your emergency 6 months or whatever, the rest, like, would you still have money, whether it's in stocks or whatever, but that's your savings, or is that investment where you're not taking that out? Like,
it's a combination of both, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the true question you're trying to get to is, at what point do you kind of feel comfortable, like that you have a solid foundation, and like that you don't need to be saving as aggressive, or
like where you can put that money into investments that could still be like, your stocks, but if you need to pull money out, you can, or you have money that goes into investments that you're not touching, where you're like, no, like I can't take that out. Like, where do you kind of draw that line?
I think there's kind of like stages to the wealth journey. I think the first stage that you need to get to is like $100,000 net worth. I think that's like stage one. If you have $100,000 net worth, you feel like comfortable. Like you might have a house, or even if you don't have a house, that means that majority of your net worth's in like stocks or savings. It's in assets. So you have a positive net worth. Luckily you can get to 100, hopefully 100,000. I think the other milestone is like actually having $100,000 liquid. So liquid could be in a savings account or like in the stock market. So that's like, and the difference between $100,000 net worth and $100,000 liquid is usually like the $100,000 net worth could include your house. The $100,000 liquid, you're not going to have like, you're taking out any equity in your house because it's not really liquid. So let's say you actually have 100,000 liquid. I think that's the next phase. And I think when you get to 100,000 liquid, you kind of have some sense of relief. Yeah. Like that's kind of that I look at as a big milestone. Once you get there, things get a little bit easier because you have breathing room. Let's say, if you have $100,000 liquid, you can live off $100,000 for a year. Like if you were jobless for a year, you've got $100,000 that you're going to figure stuff out. And that's like you just living off that, not making any other money, which there's plenty of ways for you to go out and make some money along with that, even if you lost your job. So that gives you some peace of mind that like you have a runway. And so I think you get there. I think the next jump is like 500. Once you get to like $500,000 liquid, then things get, you have money to really invest. Like $100,000 is good. When you get to 500, you can have, you can put money into a rental property. You have some money in the stocks. You can do some hard money lending. Like you have a lot more options. And when you get to your first million, that's like, it gets a lot easier because the more money you have, the more opportunities you get to create or like you get to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And so I press everybody, like your biggest thing that you should look for right away is one, get to a positive net worth. And that's, track your finances, use our net worth tracker, figure out where you're at right now. And your goal should first be like, let's get this positive. If it's not positive, just like Jace did. And the next goal is like, let's get this to 100,000. If we can get this to $100,000 net worth, Jace, do you feel like you have a little bit more breathing room?
Oh yeah.
Now versus like 2 years ago?
Yep.
So then you feel comfortable, and then you're going to push to get that 100,000 liquid. And I think that's where Jace is right now, is on that goal to get to a savings where he has $100,000 liquid. And then he's going to be able to start making his first few investments. Because let's say your burn rate right now, we've shared your burn rate. What is it?
It's around 8K.
8K. Mm-hmm. So it's right around 100, like that's about $100,000 a year. So once he has $100,000 liquid, he knows that, hey, I could go a year without selling a single house and be okay.
Yeah.
So then he gets a little bit of option. So now he can be like, hey, I could pull 50 of this, keep 50 to give me a little bit of a runway, and invest half of it. So he'd invest, half of the $100,000 into his first investment if he wants to. And as that starts to compound, really when he gets to, now it's like 250 to 500, that's where he's going to be able to take a lot more advantage of opportunities. And that compounding effect, when you get to those bigger numbers, is just, it's a lot harder to get to your first $100,000 than it is to get to like 250. So it's like, once you get to 100, getting to 250 is really easy. And then once you get to your first million, getting to your second million's a lot quicker, because you have the money to, it's not only you working and saving, it's you working and your money's working for you. So you got two people working for you, like a dual household income, and you're going to get to that next goal a lot quicker.
I would say, like, real quick, because when you start talking 500K, million, 2 million, like, people can start to feel overwhelmed with that number because it feels so far out of reach.
Yeah.
But to narrow it down, it literally boils down to very intentional habits. The same habits that you are going to make to get your first 5K is going to be the same habits that you're doing to get your first million. And so it's just developing those habits. And then once you get your first 5K, you're going to be like, wow, that felt really good. Like, this is sweet. And then 10K is going to feel a lot easier. Then 20K is going to feel easier than 10. And it's the same habits that got you to that point. And just having been on the journey with the net worth, I was amazed at how fast something that felt so far out of reach actually was. And it was simple habits that you just applied every day.
And I love, thank you for saying that. I love that answer. And I tie it back to like fitness, because it's the same concept. It's like losing 50 pounds can seem so daunting, but it is just the little habits over time.
Yep.
And they're simple. It's like work out, eat less calories than you burn. And when you're in a deficit, you're burning more calories than you eat.
Yeah.
You will lose weight. Like, it is inevitable. And so it's the same thing. If you are spending less money than you make, you will inevitably be saving money and be building wealth. Like, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. And so it's like, if you can just create a process where you're doing that on a monthly basis and you just let that compound over time, you're going to get there. But it's just starting with those little principles, going back to all the way, like, it's daunting to look at your finances.
Yeah.
Just like it's daunting to step on the scale when you're overweight, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it, and then you have to start tracking. And I am not a Dave Ramsey person. I will go get my Starbucks. I will spend money how I want to spend money. But I do think Dave Ramsey has the mindset of, you just have to be aware at the bare minimum. You don't have to live off of a budget, but at the bare minimum, you have to know how much you're spending and you have to know how much you're bringing in. And there has to be a gap, because if there's not, you're just never going to get out of the rat race. You're always going to be stuck. You have to have a gap to allow you to save money each month and let that grow over time. But it is amazing how fast you begin to lose weight when you start burning more calories than you eat. And it's crazy how fast you start to build wealth when you spend less money than you make. Like, it's just such an easy, it's hard because, like, it sounds like such an easy concept and we keep repeating it. And sometimes the biggest things in life are the easiest things to understand, yet they're just so hard to implement. It's like, understanding how to lose weight is not hard. Like, it is science backed. Just like saving money is not hard. Like, it is mathematically impossible for you not to be in a better financial situation if you spend less than you make. But it is so hard for people just to spend less than they make. A lot of it's just because they're not willing to first go out and just understand where their money's going and how much they're actually spending. But if you just take that little time to be uncomfortable and figure those things out and set up some kind of process for you to do these little things on a daily basis, your life could look so much different in 5 years. And 5 years is going to go by like that. This kid, I've brought him up a few times on this podcast that does some hard money lending with us. Mm-hmm. He was like one of the first listeners of the podcast. I don't even know how he found the podcast. Maybe like Instagram or something, but it was like before we even switched to like financial, we were just talking about like business and stuff. And I remember like, it's actually crazy because my dad went in for an x-ray just recently, and it was with this kid. He's an x-ray tech, and he saw my dad's last name. He's like, Elizondo, like, do you know Anthony? He's like, yeah, he's my son. He's like, oh, actually, I do some hard money lending with him. He lets me like invest in their projects. And so my dad met him recently, but yeah, he started with, he'd saved up some money, saved up like 50 grand, started investing that. He's been investing with us for like 2 years. He has over 100 grand now that he's investing. We just did a project where he invested 100 grand. He got paid back. He's already hit me up like, hey, do we have another project that I can invest in? It's just so cool to see, like, and I praise him because I had one conversation with him and he's just run with it. He just continues to work hard, continues to save money, and now he's investing. It's not rocket science. And like, the time is going to go by regardless. So just set up a system, and who cares if it takes 10 years? 10 years is going to go like, dude, I graduated high school 12 years ago. At first I was like, dude, my 10-year reunion, that's so far away. Dude, it was like, it happened so fast. Like, it was actually scary. Yeah. So like, I just encourage, it can happen so quick. If you set up these things, your life could look completely different in 2 years. Look at Jace's story. It was a year. It was 12 months. Your life looked completely different. Mm-hmm. And you look at these guys that, go on fitness journeys. It's like, you see their before and after, a 12-month before and after off of just like little habits. You're like, dude, no way, they look incredible. How did they do that? It took 12 months. Your life could look completely different in 12 months if you just made the decision and stuck with it and created some good habits. And so that's where I'm like, it seems daunting, but if you just do it, like, it's going to happen quicker than you ever think. And then when you get there, that compounding effect over the next 10 years is going to be like, you're going to blow your mind at what you can actually accomplish.
I've got a question, kind of a little bit away from what you're just talking about, but if you were in my position and say you saved 30, 40 grand, whatever it is, maybe that's like enough for a down payment. Like, you finally get to that point and you're like, I want to go buy a house. With kind of how the housing market is and stuff, do you think if you're in a place where you could just rent for, another year or two, is it worth doing that and putting your money into something like hard money, like loan with you or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Or is it worth it to get into a house? Because I know how the housing market is just going to keep going up. But like, what would you do if you had, 30, 40 grand that you'd saved up? And maybe that is your emergency savings or whatever. Do you think that you should keep that and then save another whatever on top of that for a down payment for a house? Because I feel like a lot of people my age would save enough and they'd use all their savings to get a house, and then they're pretty much broke when they get in. But if you're in a place where you don't have to necessarily get into a house, but you have the money, is it better to just put that money somewhere else while you keep saving up and maybe you get into a nicer house? Or you, like, what do you think?
Yeah, I've got a great answer for this. I'm actually really bullish on this stuff. So we actually have a cousin that I helped buy a house last year, and they did an awesome dual income. They had saved some money. They were going to put 20% down. And I had a conversation. I'm like, why are you guys going to put 20% down? And they're just like, that's what our parents said we should save and put 20% down. So that's what we're doing. But when they put the 20% down, they were basically not going to have any more savings. So it's exactly the situation. They saved 20%, which is awesome, but then they weren't going to have any money. They were expecting their first kid, like she was pregnant, and they're kind of like, we're going to put this down, but money's going to be kind of tight. I was like, if I were you, run these numbers with your lender, make sure you feel good, but like, I would put less money down, maybe put 10% or even 5%, save that money. And yes, you're going to be paying a little bit more in your monthly payment, but it's going to be, let's say you're paying $300 more on your monthly payment, but you have $30,000 now for a rainy day. Like, put that in a savings account, and you can even use that to pay the extra $300 a month that you're paying on your payment. But you have these funds if anything were to happen. Because $300 a month, that's, let's say, what, $3,600? Yeah, $3,600 a year or whatever. That's 10 years of payments that you're now have in your account for a rainy day.
That's true.
And I look at it like, depending on what your interest rate is, if it's a 6% interest rate, could you use that money and go get a better return than 6%? I can, and I know you can, because you're connected with me and I can help you get a better return. But it's the biggest thing is, like, as long as you have the discipline to not spend that money. If you put less down and then you're going to go spend the money on a new car, I'd say put it down in the house, like, get rid of it. But if you're disciplined enough to say, hey, if I were you, I would go, honestly, if I were you, the best thing would be, like, go find a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. I wish I would have done this when I was earlier on in my family creation, and house hack, because then you might be into a property out of pocket less than you are in rent, and you can get in with like 5% down on an FHA loan. I would go with a lower down payment and then invest the rest with other things.
I would say at least a lot of my friends, a lot of people my age would look at that and be like, oh, I could do that, but I would be living in a dump. I would be living downtown, probably not in an area that I want to be in, especially if you're going to have a kid or whatever your situation is. And if you get like into a newer place, and you guys know more about the market, but like maybe it's not really an investment anymore because you bought it at a great price because, it's a new one, whatever it is. So like, do you think it's worth it to get into something like that? I mean, I know that's probably personal preference and kind of what you're willing to trade off, but like the options I feel like are limited, at least from what I feel like. It's like, if you want a duplex, triplex, fourplex, it's going to be like downtown, kind of in the ghetto. Yeah,
it's true. You can find some on the number streets. It really depends on what your financial goals are. If like building long-term wealth and having rental properties down the road is what you want, I think that is a great way to get into it. On the flip side, I understand, wanting to just get into a better neighborhood. I would say, like, truly deciding on what is a start. Like, I think a lot of people try to go buy their first home and they want the 3-car garage, 3,000 square feet, this big home. Then I'm like, do you really need that right now? Mm-hmm. I would say go with a true starter home that, even if it's smaller, maybe it is a 2-bed, 1-bath or a 3-bed, 1-bath, and it's a little bit older, but it's livable. You guys can maybe do some updates to it to force some equity, some appreciation. Definitely don't go buy a fully remodeled house, because then you have no way to improve it or create value. I would find something that you can add value to while you're living there, and then turn that into a rental property when you're done. So like, hey, when we want to go upgrade, we're going to keep this property and we're going to turn it into a rental. And usually you don't want a big house as a rental property. So you want to find that 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-bed, 1-bath, like something that's going to be good as a rental once you guys are done living there, which could only be like 2 to 3 years. But I think the biggest play for your age too is find something that you can add value to. Yeah. Don't go for the brand new house, because that worked 5 years ago, but Idaho Falls has seen so much appreciation. Like, I was looking at the stats. The last 10 years, we've appreciated at like 10% a year. So that's not like, we're not going to continue to see that. I mean, year over year, we're actually down average sales price right now. And so, not that I think real estate is going to continue to go up, but I would say get into a comfortable house with a decent payment. Don't stretch yourself too thin, and then upgrade from there. Don't try to go up here and put your back against the wall. Yeah. And then have no money to invest, because that's going to slow down your wealth building journey. But if that's not important to you, like, this is where the conversation comes, is like, what is most important to you?
Yeah.
If it's like, hey, we don't really care about having rental properties or investments, and we're just going to do that later on in life, great. Then, go get the new house. But understand that that's a trade-off that you're making. But if you're like, hey, this is important, we want long-term wealth, we want freedom, we want some cash flow down the road, and we want to get there quicker, then go with a starter home that can get converted to a rental.
Yeah.
But
I'd
that
say
helps a lot.
to piggyback off of that in short, is don't fall under the trap of like the emotional side of looking at that. So like, for example, because I was in a similar boat, we just had our first kid, and that's when we were looking at our first house. And in our brains, when we were looking at this house, we're like, yeah, we're going to need a yard. We're going to need, we wanted the 2 to 3 car garage. Like we wanted all this stuff, but looking back on it, we never used it because like my kid wasn't old enough to go out in the yard and play in the yard. Like having a yard meant nothing to us. And so that's why I'm like, and Anthony mentioned this too, like if I could go back in time, especially from the age that your kid is like 1 to 4, they're not going to use anything outside of the house. And so going into a townhome or a duplex or a fourplex or whatever and try to house hack is in your best interest from where you're at in your family's life, because they're not going to remember it. So you're sacrificing a little comfortability for you and your wife and what you guys want to do, but don't let the emotion of having a kid and what the kid might want dictate that decision, because the kid's not going to know any different. Now, it's different when they get to 5, 6, 7, because they're going to start using that stuff, and you do want to take those decisions into factor. But that's when, if you make the right decision now, that decision when it does become emotionally attached for the kid becomes a lot easier. And so I'm in the same boat where it depends on your financial situation and what goals you have and what you want. At the end of the day, happy wife, happy life. Like, make sure you guys are comfortable. But yeah, I'd say if I could go back in time and do it, I would have tried to do, at the very minimum, a townhome.
Yeah,
that it could turn into a rental after I left.
Growing up, my mom was a single mom. We lived in fourplexes, apartment units, like older rundown stuff. And she would like, do you remember when we lived there? I'm like, nope. Like, no recollection. Mm-hmm. So I think what Jace is saying is really powerful. It's like, we put a lot of emphasis on like, what are our kids? It's like, they aren't really going to remember for those first few years. Yeah. That is a time to live wherever you want and try to save money and do that stuff, because they're not going to remember. But when they're
90% of that kid's life will be lived in the bedroom and the living room.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you need for the kid.
And until they're like 4 or 5, they're really not even going to remember the bedroom or the living room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to recall where they lived. But then when they're a little bit, I would say, 3, 4, they start to remember a little bit, and you might want to put them into a nicer area, or especially when they start going to school. Obviously, you're looking at school districts and where they're going to go to school and stuff. But this is the time where that stuff doesn't really matter. So find a starter home that works, or if you want a house hack and do that, awesome. Because I think it's going to set you up so much better down the road. But that's just my.
Oh, that's very, very eye-opening. Yeah.
So, all right. Any last thoughts or questions?
No, this was very enjoyable. I got to give a shout out to Kyle. Like, he does a lot for us on the back end. One of the reasons we wanted to have him on, obviously, was to hear your insight, being at the age that you are, but also, like, selfishly, I wanted to just say thank you for all that you do for the podcast and stuff. Like, a lot of it's unseen, and oftentimes when it's not seen, it's not recognized or appreciated enough, and we just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, dude.
Kyle crushes it. He runs all the marketing for like all of our companies. Yeah. So he is posting all the videos and stuff. Does a great job, works a ton. And he's about to have a baby, and he's here working.
Have fun with that, man.
Yeah.
It's going to change your life.
For the better.
Yeah.
For the better.
It's going to be fun.
It is going to be the hardest thing you guys do, but it's also going to be like the most rewarding. Don't get it confused. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, it will suck some days, but that's part of life. Everything has its downsides.
Thanks for coming, dude.
So,
appreciate it.
All right. Till next week. We'll catch you guys later.
Welcome to the chase where the champions dwell. To the grind, to the hustle, the pursuit of wealth. Every story, every journey, every climb from the shelf. Here's to the drive, to the fight, to pursue